video, I'm going to show you how to answer an MBE question. Many students ask, what is the best way to answer multiple choice questions? Should I read the call of the question first? Should I read the answer choices first? The approach to answering MBE questions that I'm going to show you will answer all those questions. First, it is important to recognize that answering MBE questions is a skill. Many students tend to rush through practicing MBE questions to try to get through as many questions as possible in hopes that they will see their MBE score improve. However, if you want to see your MBE score improve, it makes much more sense to slow down, take your time answering the questions, dissect them, and understand exactly how they are written, and then start to speed up. So instead of answering 100 questions a day really quickly, you want to start by answering these questions slowly and methodically and learn how to dissect them. If you do this, you will start to see your MBE score improve much more quickly and with much less effort on your part. Imagine that you want to become a painter. You have 100 canvases available to you to work toward that goal. One approach would be to just start painting on those canvases. By the time you get to canvas number 100, your paintings will probably look better than they did at canvas number 1. But another approach would be to start with canvas number 1 and try to learn painting techniques. Study lighting techniques, brush strokes, or color mixing. In the beginning, start slowly and really try to learn about painting, and then gradually speed up. If you use that approach, by the time you get to canvas number 100, your paintings will look great compared to canvas number 1. You would see rapid improvement because you took the time to learn the proper painting techniques before you started to speed up. And that's the approach you want to take with MBE questions. You could just answer 100 MBE questions or even 100 questions a day and hope that your MBE score improves. And it probably would improve a little bit. But the better approach is to start with a slow and methodical approach. Learn how to dissect an MBE question. Learn how to recognize certain facts in a fact pattern. And learn what the call of the question is asking. After learning this approach to answering MBE questions, you will be able to speed up. By the time you start answering several questions at once, you are likely to see your MBE score improve significantly. Step 1 of this approach is to read the fact pattern. Then read the call of the question, then stop. Start at the top of the question and read the fact pattern first. After you have read the fact pattern, read the call of the question. Some students like to read the call of the question first before reading the fact pattern. While some students may have success with that approach, in general, we do not recommend starting with reading the call of the question. Reading the call of the question before reading the fact pattern can be a distraction and can also waste time, as students often need to go back and read the fact pattern twice because they are so focused on the call of the question during the first reading of the fact pattern. If you find it beneficial to read the call of the question first, it is fine to do so, but in general, that is not our recommendation. Additionally, we recommend that you don't look at the answer choices first. Some students read the answer choices before reading the fact pattern, but that tends to be an ineffective strategy. Many wrong MBE answer choices are written to intentionally trick you. If you read the answer choices before reading the fact pattern, you might read an answer choice that sounds good, making you susceptible to misreading the fact pattern in a way that points you toward your predetermined answer choice. Also, some answer choices might correctly state the law, but they are not relevant to the given facts. You won't know whether they are relevant to the facts until after you read the fact pattern. Step 2 is identify the subject being tested. Is it real property, evidence, torts? If you have trouble identifying the subject being tested, you probably need to spend more time learning your outlines. Step 3 is identify the legal issue being tested. For example, if the subject being tested is evidence, what issue in evidence is being tested? Is it a hearsay exception, character evidence, impeachment? Step 4 is state the applicable rule. For example, if the issue is the dying declaration hearsay exception, can you state all the elements of the exception? If you cannot state the elements of the dying declaration exception, this means that you should spend more time memorizing your outlines. For now, go ahead and look up the rule in your outline and write it down so that you are more likely to remember this rule in the future and the next time you are faced with a dying declaration question. I will talk more about the benefits of writing down rules later in this video. Step 5 is answer the question without looking at the answer choices. To do this, you might need to cover up the answer choices with your hand or a piece of paper. Answering the question before reading the answer choices will prevent you from picking a deceptive answer that is intended to trick you. Now, sometimes the way the call of the question is worded or the way the answer choices are worded makes it very difficult or even impossible to answer the question without looking at the answer choices. But typically, for about 75% of the questions, you should be able to articulate what the correct answer choice is before even reading the answer choices. Step 6 is find the correct answer choice. Read the answer choices and select the answer choice that comes to the correct conclusion based on the rule that you stated. And finally, step 7 is review the incorrect answer choices. As you review the incorrect answer choices, try to explain why they are incorrect. Going through all these steps will probably take you between 5 and 10 minutes per question. Although this is a much slower pace than you will need to take on the exam, for now, taking your time is fine. When you are completing practice questions, your goal should be to learn the law, not to simply answer as many questions as possible. Using this slow and methodic approach, you might only answer 10 practice questions each day, and that is okay. When it comes time to take the bar exam, the degree to which you know the law is more important than the number of practice questions you answered. If you follow this approach, you will start to see an improvement in your MBE score. Now, let's use this approach and dissect an example MBE question together. You can see that I have put the entire MBE question on the screen. However, because we are not going to look at the answer choices until later, I'm going to take away the answer choices and take them down for right now. When you are practicing answering MBE questions, you will need to cover up the answer choices until you get to step 6. We are going to start with step 1. Read the fact pattern, then read the call of the question, then stop. The facts state, a man and his friend were drinking and playing pool in a busy hall. The man was bragging about how accurate of a hunter he was. The friend challenged him and expressed doubt at the man's accuracy. The man said he was going to shoot the end of the pool stick that was across the room. The man promptly fired a shot at the pool stick. The bullet hit the pool stick, but also ricocheted off the wall and struck and killed an elderly woman. What crime should the man be charged with? Now that we have completed step 1, we are ready for step 2. Identify the subject being tested. Here, the fact pattern says that a man shot a gun in a busy pool hall and the bullet struck and killed someone. Additionally, the call of the question asks, what crime should the man be charged with? This sounds like a criminal law question. Also, we don't see any other legal issues in the fact pattern or in the call of the question that would lead us to think that any other subject besides criminal law is being tested in this question. Step 3 is identify the legal issue being tested. Here, the call of the question asks us to identify the crime the man should be charged with. Additionally, the facts tell us that someone died. This means that our legal issue is homicide. Specifically, we are probably going to need to determine whether the man committed homicide and, if so, what kind of homicide. Step 4 is state the applicable rule. When you first start practicing dissecting MBE questions, I recommend that you write out the rule. Now, you won't have time to do this on the bar exam because it would take too much time. But this can be a good habit to get into when you are practicing questions slowly and methodically, especially when you first begin practicing questions using this method. Writing out the rule allows you to test yourself to see if you really know the rule, so it is a great way to actively review the rules. If you don't know the rule, look for it in your outline. This process will help you to remember the rule because you are actively looking for the rule at a time when you need to know it. We know that the issue is whether the man committed homicide, and if so, what kind of homicide. The rule we need to recall is the basic description of the different kinds of homicide. Here, I have listed those descriptions. It is very important to know the homicide rules for the MBE because there are going to be 3 or 4 scored MBE questions on homicide. The rule tells us that first-degree murder is an intentional killing that requires premeditation and deliberation. Here, the man intended to shoot the pool stick and not the victim who ended up dying. So this is an unintentional killing, which tells us that it is not first-degree murder. Additionally, there are no facts that suggest that the man premeditated or thought about it ahead of time, the killing, or that he deliberated, made a choice to kill the victim. Next, the rule tells us that second-degree murder is an unintentional killing in one of the 3 following situations. First, the defendant intends to cause someone serious bodily harm, but does not intend to kill them, but the person ends up dying. Here, the facts do not indicate that the man intended to do any harm to the elderly woman who died. So this is probably not this kind of second-degree murder. The next situation is extreme recklessness regarding homicidal risk and someone dies. Again, there is no intent to kill, but the defendant here acts in a way such that is reckless and involves a high likelihood of someone getting killed. Another name for this type of second-degree murder is depraved heart murder. Here, the man had been drinking and decided to shoot a gun in a busy pool hall. The bullet hit the pool stick, but then ricocheted off the wall and struck and killed the elderly woman. Shooting a gun in a busy pool hall that causes the bullet to strike and kill a bystander sounds a lot like depraved heart second-degree murder. The third situation for second-degree murder is the catch-all category of second-degree murder, which is an intentional killing that is not first-degree murder. This type of second-degree murder usually occurs when the defendant is in the heat of passion, which we will talk more about in a moment when we get to voluntary manslaughter. But for now, understand that it means to be enraged, but the defendant is not adequately provoked from an objective standpoint. Again, adequate provocation is something that we will discuss when we get to voluntary manslaughter. We know that this is not an intentional killing, so this is not this type of second-degree murder. Additionally, there are no facts to suggest that the man killed the woman in the heat of passion. Now that we have gone through the murder rules, let's turn to manslaughter. Starting with voluntary manslaughter, this is the intentional killing of a human being without malice aforethought, committed in the heat of passion due to adequate provocation. Heat of passion means that the defendant is extremely angry and had no time to cool off before the killing occurred. Adequate provocation means that the defendant was provoked and that the law recognizes the circumstances of the provocation as one that qualifies as adequate provocation. One classic example of adequate provocation is when a person discovers their spouse in bed with another person. Another commonly tested voluntary manslaughter scenario involves a person coming up to the defendant and punching the defendant in the face. The defendant then becomes extremely angry and pulls out a gun and shoots the person. Because voluntary manslaughter is an intentional killing, the correct answer here is not going to be voluntary manslaughter, as we already discussed. Additionally, there are no facts to suggest that the man was in the heat of passion or was adequately provoked when he fired the gun. Involuntary manslaughter is the killing of another human being due to recklessness or gross negligence, or a killing during the commission of a misdemeanor or a felony that does not qualify for felony murder. Some examples of involuntary manslaughter are a parent not taking their very sick child to the doctor and the child dying because of not receiving adequate medical care, or a person driving under the influence, hitting and killing a pedestrian. An important thing to note about involuntary manslaughter is that with involuntary manslaughter, there is no malice aforethought. Here, although the man acted in a reckless manner when he shot his gun in a busy pool hall, his actions went beyond just recklessness because of his disregard for human life that he exhibited by recklessly engaging in an activity with a high homicidal risk, causing his actions to qualify as extreme recklessness. Recall that the extreme recklessness regarding homicidal risk is the malice aforethought component for depraved heart second-degree murder. Because there is no malice aforethought with involuntary manslaughter, involuntary manslaughter is not the correct answer here. Step 5 is answer the question without looking at the answer choices. Looking again at the call of the question, it says, what crime should the man be charged with? As we recall the homicide rules and how we applied them to the facts, we remember that we ruled out first-degree murder, we ruled out voluntary manslaughter, and we ruled out involuntary manslaughter. We also ruled out two kinds of second-degree murder: intent to cause serious bodily harm and the catch-all category of second-degree murder. But when we applied the facts to the rule for second-degree murder of extreme recklessness regarding homicidal risk and someone dies, or depraved heart second-degree murder, we found that the facts fit well with this type of homicide because the man was acting with extreme recklessness regarding homicidal risk by shooting a gun in a busy pool hall, and an elderly woman died. So, to answer the call of the question, we are going to look for an answer choice that says second-degree murder. Step 6 is find the correct answer choice. Now, we are going to read the answer choices and select the one that best matches the answer we determined. The answer choices are A, first-degree murder, B, second-degree murder, C, voluntary manslaughter, and D, no crime. Answer choice B, second-degree murder, fits our determined answer perfectly. Step 7 is review the incorrect answer choices. When you are completing practice questions, this last step can help you understand the nuances of the law and also help you feel more confident about the answer choice you have chosen. So now, let's look at the other answer choices and think about why they are incorrect. Answer choice A, first-degree murder, is incorrect because the man did not intend to kill the woman and did not act with premeditation and deliberation. Instead, the man intended to shoot a pool stick, not a person. Answer choice C, voluntary manslaughter, is incorrect because the man did not intend to kill the woman and was not in the heat of passion or adequately provoked. Instead, he wanted to prove what an accurate shot he was. Answer choice D, no crime, is incorrect because the man acted with extreme recklessness regarding homicidal risk by shooting a gun in a busy pool hall, causing the bullet to strike and kill the elderly woman. Now that we have dissected an MBE question together, here are a few more things to note about the MBE. The first is we suggest that you write down what you don't know. We call this the legal pad method. We recommend that if you do not know the law in the question, or if you answer an MBE question incorrectly, write down on a legal pad or a separate notepad the law you didn't know or the reason why you answered the question incorrectly. Then keep reviewing the material in this document or this legal pad. You will constantly be exposing yourself to the law that you previously did not know. And you may see patterns in the areas of law that you need to work on memorizing. The legal pad method is a fantastic way to see improvement in your MBE score. Some students simply read the answer explanation and hope that they remember it for the future. The problem with just reading the answer explanation is that you are learning so much law in the process of studying for the bar exam that you are likely to forget what you learned if you don't review it. Constantly reviewing the law that you did not know on your legal pad is a great way to commit it to memory. Now that you have learned how to dissect MBE questions, what are the advantages of using this approach? First, dissecting MBE questions will help you learn the rules and the law. By challenging yourself to state the rule every time you see an MBE question, you are going to learn the rules much better. Second, this approach will keep you engaged. This is an active an organized way of approaching the MBE, so you are less likely to suffer from fatigue and you are less likely to lose your concentration. Third, you will begin to understand how MBE questions are written and how they work. If you approach MBE questions by dissecting them slowly and methodically, you will begin to intuitively understand how they are written. Understanding how MBE questions are written and how they work will help you be more confident on test day. Fourth, if you use this approach to answering MBE questions when you first start practicing MBE questions, you will find yourself getting tricked less often. Because you are using a step-by-step approach to answering MBE questions, you will avoid the common traps and red herrings that trick a lot of students. Fifth, you will decrease your stress and anxiety about answering MBE questions. Students who race through several MBE questions a day often never see any real improvement in their MBE score. This can lead to a vicious cycle of answering questions, missing a lot of those questions, feeling stressed out, then answering more questions and feeling even more stressed out. By slowing down, you are much more likely to see your MBE score increase and your stress level decrease. Sixth, dissecting MBE questions in this way will help you improve your timing. It may seem counterintuitive that going slowly when answering MBE questions can help you speed up. But by going through MBE questions slowly and methodically, you will become more confident and faster at answering MBE questions over time. Lastly, dissecting MBE questions is the best way to efficiently approach the MBE. Using this approach, you are not just going through the motions. You are using an organized and methodical approach, which is an efficient use of your valuable study time. Finally, a note on timed exams. Remember, it is also important to incorporate timed exams into your MBE study schedule. During the real MBE, you will not be going through the questions this slowly and methodically. This approach is to help you improve your MBE score when you are practicing. We recommend that you incorporate both dissecting MBE questions as well as completing timed exams into your MBE practice. One way to do this, for example, is if you are planning to spend 2 hours a day on MBE questions, spend the first hour dissecting questions slowly and the second hour answering timed MBE questions. That way, you get the best of both worlds, the slow and methodical approach that will help you improve your MBE score, and the timed approach that will help you to become aware of how long you have to answer each MBE question on exam day.